But of all the folks I just mentioned, we took lessons. We learned about fighting from the man who represented us in the United States Senate for 36 years. A man who has for so long been a tireless advocate, who has fought for civil rights, who has fought for America's middle class, who has fought for Delaware, and who now today fights for America each and every day. Ladies and gentlemen, the Vice President of the United States, our own Joe Biden.
It's good to be home. Tommy, how you doing, pal? Good to see you. And I tell you what, I noticed no one missed me as senator once you got Kaufman. I got to say something about Ted Kaufman. All the years I served in the Senate, I can say this without fear of contradiction. No one, think about this now, I mean it literally, Jack Markell, no one has made as much of an impact in his first 2 years as a senator than Ted Kaufman in the entire 36 years I've been there. Hey, Lynn, how are you? And John Carney, I want you to know I'm from Claymont too, you know. We got a great ticket. And I tell you what, you know, the president's always talking about Chicago and Hawaii. You know, they're nice. Hawaii's magnificent. Chicago, I like. But I tell you what, I was reminding him as he got out of the car today. He would not be president of the United States today but for Delaware. Let me tell you why. No, let me tell you why. The way I look at it, without David Plouffe and Dan Pfeiffer, we'd have had a hard time. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce Dan Pfeiffer's mom and dad. Where are you, mom and dad? Dan, our political... Dan Pfeiffer's mom and dad, we owe you big. We owe you big. You produced a great Delawarean, and we're counting on him saving us again. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a delight to be home, and it's a delight to be back with all of you. Chris, when you were referencing all those people that learned from me, the president leaned up and put his hand on my shoulder and he said, and the old guy. You all learned from me. My Lord, I'm not that old. Actually, I am. I was telling the president, I remember when, well, anyway. Hey, look, we're here for one overwhelming reason. There's a great deal at stake. You all got behind the president and me in this last election, and Delaware produced really big for Barack Obama and Joe Biden. And I couldn't have been prouder. My home state played such not only a solid role, but so overwhelmingly supported us. And it meant a great deal to me personally. You know that expression attributable to James Joyce, he said, when I die, Dublin will be written on my heart. Well, when I die, Delaware will be written on mine. And Delaware's always come through for me. But folks, it's really important that we keep this momentum going. And it's impossible to keep this momentum going without us having the United States Senate. And as Chris will tell you, the first guy that I called to ask to run for the United States Senate, I think I may have been among the first to call you. I think I was maybe beaten by Bo from Iraq. I'm not sure who called first, but we called to strongly suggest that Chris Coons run for the United States Senate. And I think Chris Coons even had Mike Castle won. I think Chris Coons would still have made it and still have been the next United States Senator. But let me tell you why I called him. Let me tell you why my family, from my sister Valerie, who's campaigned up and down the state for Chris, and from my wife and my daughter and everyone, the reason we feel so strongly about Chris Coons is, like you, we know him. We not only know he has a really genuinely keen intellect, is an incredibly bright guy. That is self-evident. But the other thing about him is that I like about him the most, and I thank his mom and his dad, he's so centered. He knows why he's in this. There's a lot of people in this audience, Mr. President, who I'm going to introduce in a moment, who's backstage, that I've been asked ever since I won this Senate seat at age 30, everyone understandably said, well, if Biden can win it at 30, anybody can do this. And so, you're laughing, but that's not. And so an awful lot of young candidates have come to me and said, you know, I'm thinking of running. I don't think there's many who've run in the last 30 years that hadn't at least politely come by and say, what do I need to do? And I always say the same thing. I say the one thing you have to know in order to run, and John's shaking his head, is what it's worth losing over about. What are you willing to lose the election over? That's the measure of whether or not you're engaged in this for the right reason, whether it's something other than ambition. That is something I never wondered about Chris Coons. This guy knows exactly why he's engaged. This guy knows exactly why he's asked his magnificent 3 children and his wife to go through what is both an honor but also a real hard slog. Because he knows what's worth losing over and why he has to win. And it's about giving middle-class folks an even shot. Just a level playing field. My dad used to say, Joey, I don't expect the government to solve my problem, but I at least expect them to understand my problem. This guy understands the problem of struggling Americans. Those struggling to get into the middle class and those who are in the middle class barely hanging on, about to slide out. That's what this is all about. That's what this race is all about. And that's why I am absolutely convinced I can say without fear of reservation or ever being contradicted, when Chris Coons goes to the United States Senate, you will never have to wonder why you voted for him. This is a man of incredible integrity. And this is a man of action. So look, I work with a guy who I've liked from the day I met him. Actually went out, he needed me like he needed another hole in his head, but actually went out and campaigned for him when he was running for the United States Senate out in Illinois. We become genuinely good friends, close friends. This guy has a backbone like a ramrod. I kid him, he's got a brain bigger than his skull, and he's got a heart to match both. This is a man who knows what has to be done. This is a man who's not afraid to take tough decisions. And I honestly believe, some of you kid me because you say, how can I, after all these years, be even more optimistic than I was when I first got elected at age 29? I'm optimistic because I know the history of the journey of this country. And never, ever, when the American people have been given an even shot, never when they've laid out a vision for them, have they ever not repaired to that vision. And the guy I'm about to introduce to you is all about that. This is a guy who knows where America has to go and is not afraid to stand up and say it and is willing to lay out the vision. No president has ever been a great president and hasn't laid out a vision for the people as to how they can move from where they are. You know, during the campaign, he and I used to say, and I'm paraphrasing him, that we Americans, we know we don't have to accept a situation we can't bear. We just have to have the backbone to stand up and fight. Fight for what we know is right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, my dad used to say it a little bit differently. When you get knocked down, there's only one thing you do. Get up. Just get up. And ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States, Barack Obama, is getting America back on its feet. We have gone from hemorrhaging jobs to creating jobs. We have gone from hemorrhaging a debt to beginning to grab hold of the debt. We've gone from one of the least respected nations of the world under the last president to one of the most respected nations of the world. We brought home 100,000 troops from Iraq, and we'll keep the commitment of ending that war in Iraq and leaving us to the place behind. Ladies and gentlemen,